Outer Orange.
Ah yes, the moment has come for us to discuss Ange deck profile. Hello everybody. So today I wanted to discuss with you guys the Bermuda Triangle standard Ange deck profile. As you guys may or may not know, Bermuda Triangle cards are super cheap right now. I did the math. The Ange deck that I will be providing today is actually between like $25 to $30 if you include shipping and everything. It's really cheap. It's actually gone up a little bit because Ange and the PG were both a little bit cheaper, and they both have gone up a couple dollars. So the deck actually used to be even cheaper. I want to discuss the deck profile with you. So let's go on, switch over. Alright, so we are back and here's Ange. So I'm going to briefly discuss some pros and cons of the deck. Pros, deck is cheap. At the moment it's cheap. I don't know if it'll stay cheap, but it's cheap right now. Really large hand size, since this deck is all about, you know, bringing cards back to your hand. 3 is bouncing, meaning bringing cards back to your hand. Bouncing is really awesome in this deck. I would say 4, you have the option to multi-attack and you can push it pretty far. And 5, high pressure. So the deck that I would be providing is really large on pressure. Some cons of the deck is mainly the fact that it doesn't have a really big power output, and I would say if you're on grade 2, you're gonna have a rough time as you don't draw fast enough and might kill you off if your opponent is on grade 3, but that's kind of like a main thing in most Vanguard decks. It's really hard to get past that if you're going second, it's really hard to get past that grade 3 turn, but if you can get past it, you'll probably be in a good place. But anyway, let's go ahead and discuss the deck. So this deck is an Ange deck, and a pure, I guess you can call Ange deck. Its focus is Ange. So we're going to have our 4 copies of Ange. Now what exactly does Ange do? So Ange's skill is when it attacks a Vanguard, you counterboss 1, choose any number of normal units on any player's rear guard, return them to hand, activate all the effects below according to the number of cards returned. So if you return 2 or more, she gets 10k power, 3 or more, you get a magic gift force, and 4 or more, which is the key part about this deck. It says search your deck for up to 1 unit, so any unit by the way, call it to rear guard and shuffle your deck. That last skill there is what makes this deck work like a little clock. Like, it's what makes it tick. Without that skill, the deck falls apart. So the whole deck is wrapped around that 4th skill, and we'll be talking about it some more here really soon. But the deck does have a way to generate force markers. The deck does get some power, and you get to literally take all your cards and put them back into your hand. So it actually is capable of running like 1-ofs, as you can repeat skills and just keep bouncing cards back, and you have a pretty good hand. But let's go on into like the second part of this deck that makes it pretty solid. You want to run Perfectionist Berlenka. Now Perfectionist Berlenka is a very unique card. So her skill, she has both Vanguard Rearguard and Rearguard only skill. So her Vanguard Rearguard skill is when an attack hits a Vanguard, search your deck for or drop zone for 1 copy of herself and put it into your hand. So this adds the pressure. You swing at something, you swing at a Vanguard and you force the opponent to have to guard. And if they don't guard, then you get to search. So it's kind of like just kind of a thing you can do. Now the Rearguard skill, which is once per turn, when it attacks, you discard 2 copies of herself to restand and draw 2 cards. This is where the beauty of this card comes in. So primarily what you do is on your 4th attack, your 4th Ange, the one that lets you search for her, you will search for this. This is your, like, there's another one, but you will search for this or the grade 2 version of this. And I'll show you guys kind of like a combo of why this is just really funny, because you can literally like have one on the board, bounce it back after Ange's skill, search for another one, call it out for the 4th attack, and if you have a second one in hand, this activates. This will activate, especially if your opponent lets you hit one of these. The skill instantly activates, which is really nice. So that's primarily why we're going to focus on this, but I'll talk about the combos of like how you can do that later on. Going into grade 2s, we're going to start with Top Idol Aqua. So Top Idol Aqua is kind of one of those staple cards now in Bermuda Triangle, at least in Standard. I don't know if Premium necessarily needs it, but I do see some deck lists that run it even in Premium. This is your staple card. You kind of need this card. I would not cheap out on this. I would go pick these up, this card and some other ones. So it says, during your turn, if you have another unit in the same column as this unit, it gets 5k. Pretty much in Premium, this is Harmony. It's linked with another card behind it. Its other skill is when placed, return one of your other normal units on rear guard to your hand. If you return a card, you draw a card and discard a card. This ability can only be used once per turn. So this is actually a really nice card. 1, it gives you power. If you have the same unit in the board, it gives you power. Second skill is it returns something. So So if you need a grade 2 or a grade 1 or a grade 3, anything returned back to hand, you can return it. Keep in mind, it is a normal unit. You can't return triggers. I thought you could at first, and I was really excited. I found out you can't. The same with Ange. You can only return normal units. That's something that I will explain further on of why it's really key to keep that in mind, because you can do some silly things here and there and then realize like, oh crap, I can't return stuff. So just keep in mind it's normal units only. But other than that, the fact that you can just reuse skills is really nice. Aside from herself, you can keep using other skills. Like you can reuse Lee's a lot. You can reuse draw skills. You can just keep doing stuff, which is really nice because it makes you go through a deck. On top of the fact that it also lets you draw and discard, so you can get through some pieces that you may or may not need. And pretty much, I just think this is a staple. It's really hard to go wrong with this card. It's a solid 4. We have, this is pretty much the same as the grade 3 we saw, but her name is Cerulean Jewelry Passive. So here we have 4 copies of her. She does the exact same thing that the grade 3 does, except she's a grade 2, but literally same skills. If it hits a Vanguard, you search for itself. If it attacks anywhere, you can discard 2 copies of herself to restand and draw 2 cards. So the reason, this is your other way to manipulate. One, this is a grade 2, so you can intercept with it, and this is yet another way that you can force your opponent to be pressured. You keep applying these weird attacks of pressure, and your opponent has to keep thinking, do I guard this attack, do I not guard this attack? And it puts them in weird situations. So this is another one of those cards that adds on to the pressure, and trust me, we'll be seeing even more cards add to pressure. This deck is all about constantly searching for this card, constantly searching for this card, forcing your opponent to guard when they don't want to guard, because their process is like, I have to, it could be a small attack and they still have to guard it because they don't want this to activate, right? They don't want to see this restand, so they will purposely overguard this. Really nice. Sorry, I'm getting excited because I personally like kind of thought of this, and like my excitement of like my brain of like, I can't believe I came up with this is like going like this right now. But anyway, next we have, and don't judge me, we have 3 Lees-a-lots. So the reason I run 3 and not 4 is because I've seen this card screw me over more than help me. I talked about how you can only have normal units on the board, but you can't have trigger units that both Ange and Top Idol Aqua can bring back. So this card can screw you over. It can literally put a trigger on the board if you choose to put it on the board, and then you cannot bounce it anymore. So you literally have to call over something. Like if you want to bounce as many cards as possible to your hand, you have to call over the trigger. It can kind of screw you over. This is really good early pressure, but to be honest with you, at least in this deck, to me, this deck doesn't need to rely on this card as much as like other decks, because one, you're drawing through so much and you have a lot of pressure with your 4th attack anyway, plus this doesn't give you any power. This is a good searchable card, and that's why it's even in the deck, so you can actually search for this card as your 4th attack, and then you can use its skill, because its skill is when placed, look at top card of your deck and put it down. And it's nice because you can create another column. You can put her down and then look at top card and then put the other card behind it down. But the thing is, it's kind of like a lottery, because you have a chance of getting a trigger, a grade 2, a grade 3, something you don't want, and it can kind of screw you. So we keep it at 3. It's still a good card, don't worry. Just think 3 is a good spot for it. Lastly, in our grade 2 slots is kind of a weird one, and you can actually put some other ones. It's kind of like your searchable card that you may or may not need, but I run Concealed Bitter Inez. So Inez's skill is when placed, Counterblast Soul Blast. This unit gets 5k to a turn. If you call another rearguard this turn, you draw a card. So this is a good searchable card. It lets you draw, which actually is pretty key in this deck. You want to draw because it'll get you to those restanding pieces and make all your swings be restandable, which just makes just everything better, in my opinion. So this is just another way to get that extra draw. On top of the fact that this gives itself power. So say you have like 2 force markers on it, and this is your 4th search. So this will be 34k swinging rearguard, which is not bad. On top of the fact that you draw, the counterblast in this deck and the soul blast in this deck is super minor. The only thing that counterblast is Ange, and nothing soul blast, so this won't hurt you. Going on to grade 1s, we're starting out with another pressure card. One of my favorite pressure cards, actually. Mermaid Idol Ellie. So Mermaid Idol Ellie has 2 skills. Her first skill is Vanguard Rearguard. When it attacks or attack it boosted hits a Vanguard. Choose your deck, search your deck for up to 1 Mermaid Ellie, reveal it and put to your hand. If you put a card into your hand and this unit's on Rearguard circle, you retire this card. Her second skill is when placed, put a Mermaid Idol Ellie from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck. This unit gets 10k battle. This is, I'm sorry, not Rearguard, guard circle. Guard circle. So when you guard with this, it becomes 20 if you have something in your drop zone to recycle. So it becomes a 20k shield, which is pretty much a heal trigger. Pretty much a heal trigger, which is nice. That's good. It forces your opponent to have to guard something that they don't want to guard, because if attack hits, then you are able to search for another 10k shield. And does your opponent really want to give you that 10k shield? That's up to them, but they have to deal with that constant pressuring process of going through that. And it's just really good for you, because chances are your opponent will guard stuff that they don't want to guard again. Having these out on the board is really nice. Being able to pressure your attacks even more is really nice. Making all 3 of your columns have to be pressurable like that is nice. On top of the fact that, again, this deck bounces like crazy, so chances are you'll be reusing these skills multiple times. So we keep her at 4. Really nice card. Love the shield. I like the recycling. I'm big into all that kind of stuff. Mermaid Idol Sedna. So Sedna is your grade 3 searcher. Bermuda Triangle finally got theirs. It took pretty much till the end of V to get one. Like literally every clan has had one for forever. You need this card to search out your weird grade 3. You need it to search out your Ange. You pretty much just need this card, on top of the fact that it gets 5k if it's literally in the same column as a unit, which with Top Idol Aqua adds an extra 10k to your column, which is really nice. So the main focus is just to get to your pieces as quickly as possible. Sometimes I just use this literally, like I'll see an Ange, and if I already have an Ange in hand, I'll just drop the Ange, just to literally deck thin even more. So the deck does kind of deck thin since you are searching for stuff. So I like to just like drop it if I really don't need it, because once you get to Ange, you don't really need to ride anymore. It's not bad to, but there comes a point where you're pretty much in a good spot. 2 special message Aurora. It's just a really good card to have to one to ride on top of. So her skill is when placed, draw a card, discard a card. So if this is a Vanguard Rearguard, so if it's your first turn, this is what you do. You draw 2 pretty much and discard 1. On top of that, I meant to mention that this is a really good ride target. These are both good ride targets to have, as they just kind of add more draw and stuff and more things into your hand. This is just another thing you want to add to just keep going through your cards as fast as possible to get to your restanding pieces. So that's pretty much why she's in here. Equable Career Spiana. Really weird name, but I run 3 copies of her. So Spiana's skill is very particular, and it's actually meant for a recycling mechanic for her. So her skill is when placed, you may return a card with the same card name as a grade 3 on your Vanguard or Rearguard from your drop zone to your deck. If you return a card, shuffle your deck and countercharge 1. The countercharge isn't what's important here. It's returning these from your drop zone to your deck is what's the key here. So it pretty much lets you kind of manipulate everything again. On top of that, in case your opponent is trying to not give you counterblast for your Ange skill, this will let you kind of do that. It also makes that other counterblasting card, the one that lets you draw, just gives you more ways to use that card too. Like I said, the deck doesn't counterblast too much, so you don't really need to worry about counterblasting. So, but this will, just in case, this will get you that countercharger, but it also gets you this back to the bottom of the deck. And then when you shuffle or do whatever, cool, now you can have a chance of searching it. On top of the fact that if it hits, you search, right? So you're gonna get this card back as long as it hits. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the Sentinels. So originally I used to go 2 draw, 2 crit, and I changed it to 4 draw because I realized that drawing is actually really important in this deck. You really want to get to those restanding pieces as quickly as possible, because if you don't, your turns start getting less and less important, I guess. Like, it's kind of the same thing every single turn. You're just swinging, returning cards back, swing, but eventually you'll die, right? So you want to make sure you get to those restanding pieces quick enough so that way your opponent can't handle the restands. So that being said, you want to get to them, so you need 4. So I've changed it back to 4. It's at 4. I recommend keeping it at 4. I know crits are nice, crit sentinels are nice, but this definitely helps. Next we have, and these are again not in order, but you're pretty much running 8 crit. And then lastly, you're gonna want your 4 heals. So it's a very standard, typical trigger lineup. There's nothing, oopsie, there's nothing really that unusual here. It's just what you need. You need your crits, you need your heals, you need your draws. Lastly, you of course want a starter and a quick shield wherever that is. And then let's talk about markers for a second. I don't think we need to talk about them too much. You pretty much want to go for, oh, here's a quick shield, but you pretty much want to go Force 1 over Force 2, and primarily because since we are so focused on pressuring our opponent on hitting attacks, chances are they're going to make it their life mission to guard an attack that's 2 damage, but they don't really care too much about a 1 damage. So that being said, usually you're probably going to want to go Force 1. On top of the fact that Force 1, every single turn you have, your Force markers start stacking even more and more, and if you're riding, they're stacking even greater. Eventually, your Force 2 markers won't matter, so usually you want to go Force 1. This deck is definitely more reliant on Force 1 than it is on Force 2. I think this is nicer, in my opinion, but you know, situations do change. Sometimes this might be useful. I won't doubt it. No matter what gift it is, I will agree that there is some use in any gift in this game. I will stand by that until something drastic changes. As of right now, every gift matters, even Protect 2. It's because I play Protect clans. Protect 2 matters a lot more than people think it does. So yeah. So now let me talk about the main game plan of this very unique Ange deck. So here's your board. This is a pretty solid board. Having this out is really nice. So you want to swing with your rearguards first. So you go whack. And this is going to be really small. It's only going to be 18. Like I said, small numbers. And then you're going to go whack. Now this is the one where your opponent's going to be like, oh crap, like if this hits, like she's going to search for something. And if this hits, she's going to search for something. She's going to search for 2 if this column hits. So ideally your opponent's going to be like, oh, I guess I have to guard that. Cool, they guard it. So now you're going to go with your Vanguard, which also, by the way, has a skill in the back that will have a pressure of some form. So when this attacks, you pretend this is a counter. You counter blast. And you bring all of this back to your hand. So now it's back to your hand. Because you brought back more than 4, you get a force. Oh, I should mention that there was already a force here. So you want to make sure there was a force here. Like ideally, when we started, because we rode, there was a force. So now you're getting another force. You're getting another force marker. She gets 10k. Now we're searching. So here we are, searching for a girl over here. There she is. We're gonna pretend there's one in our hand. Pretend that attack hit or something, I don't know. So here we are. So now this attack is currently attacking Vanguard, and you can choose not to bring this one back. It's kind of up to you because you already brought back 4, so the conditions are already met. And she does have an extra 10k power on top of that, making this column like 23 plus 8, 31. So your opponent chooses whether they guard or not guard, whatever the choice is. Here comes the spicy part. So let's say your drive check is something like this. Let's just keep it simple. So this is your drive check. This is where the fun begins. Because your opponent's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, say they guard this, you put your crit and your power here. So now your little rear guard over here is a 40k swinging with a critical rear guard, right? So your opponent's like, okay, cool. So you swing with this, and then you activate its skill. You discard 2 of these, draw 2 more cards. So think of it now. So it says 40k with the crit. It restands. And guess what? It's 40k with the crit again. How solid is that? That's the major combo. That's the main combo you kind of want to go for. This is like the ideal combo, and this is really hard to deal with because it's 40k each time. And it will, and this does happen on your first turn. You can make it happen on your first turn if you get your pieces. Sometimes it won't, but ideally it could. But this is it could happen on your second turn. On the second turn, it's pretty badass too. But in the second turn, you actually have an extra force marker. So yeah. But anyway, so dealing with this is really hard because they deal with like a baby swing here, a baby swing here, a baby pressured swing, I should say. Then you have your like main Vanguard with a pressured swing, and then you have a pressured swing here, and then you have another pressured swing. Because when this hits, you can search again. So you can just keep searching until you run out of them. So that's like your main combo piece. In case you don't want to do that, you can also go a slightly more defensive option. So like I explained, you can also go this. Because you have called out rear guards during this turn, you do get to draw a card, which is really nice. On top of that, she gains 5k. So when you swing with this, she becomes a 34k column, and you just drew a card. Yay for you. Also, if you really want to be super weird, you can even search for something like this. So you ideally can, this also has a pressured attack. So when this attacks, it will become 28, but it's also if I hit, I search stuff, which is really nice. Lastly, of course, and this should definitely be like already known thing, but you can also search for the other version of the grade 2. I usually prefer the grade 2 over the grade 3, as the grade 2 becomes an intercept, the grade 3 is a dead card on the board, but you can also go this as well. This is just another way, again, if it hits, or when you attack, and you have 2 in hand, you restand. So those are like your main options, I would say. You can also, lastly, because again, the fun just never stops, can also go Weaselot. Weaselot's skill says top card, and you can call a top card and put it over here, which also can be really super. If you land stuff like this, you can then attack with this, do whatever. If your opponent is still somehow on base, like meaning the 13 and not higher, you can also add yet another pressured attack going on here. That's only if you top deck this though. So your top deck is what this relies on. But also if it's a grade 1 per se. So the other thing that it can happen when you top deck Weaselot, so you can also top deck a grade 1, create a column, and then you can swing. And normally our grade 1s actually have some kind of skills going on, so they will activate mid-battle too. So it's pretty nice. So, except for Sedna. Sedna is from hand. But yeah, those are pretty much all the combos you can do on Ange's turn. But that's pretty much the main combo and the main focus of the deck and what it is built around. Hi, so we are back and we are now in my little intermission screen. So I hope you guys enjoyed that deck profile. It is one of my favorite decks to play right now. We're kind of at the end of the video, so I can just kind of talk. I absolutely love this Ange deck. I thought Ange was gonna be like my least favorite format to play in Bermuda Triangle. I thought it was gonna be kind of like my meh deck because I thought the concept was just pretty straightforward. But after I started experimenting with like this concept, which by the way, these are common cards, like they're super cheap. I was like, holy crap, this deck is so fun. Because fun fact, I actually started this out as a Chocho deck because I saw like deck lists and stuff, and I was like, yeah, Chocho. I'll try a Chocho. And I really don't like Chocho. Chocho is the most linear, the most boring deck possible. Like it's just so like, there we go. Yeah. Bring stuff back. 15k. It's kind of boring to me, so I actually dismantled it and decided to see what I could do with Ange on her 4th attack, and this is what I came up with. And it's brilliant. I love it. I recommend it. I think you should try it. It's literally $25 to build this. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the profile. Please like, subscribe, comment. I really am so thankful for all the support. There has been a lot of people coming in and subscribing recently, and I really appreciate it. Glad you guys are enjoying my YouTube channel, whether it's through my anime figures or my Vanguard stuff or my gaming content, whatever it is. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad every single day I wake up I see something new, and it's just really nice to see. So thank you guys so much for all the support, and as always, thank you for watching. Peace out. Do svidaniya. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.